Good Tuesday morning to you. I know several of you out there going, yeah, really? Tuesday? What's good about it? You been to the traffic? Yeah, was out there and in it for a while. But glad to be back home. Glad to be back in the building here of the outstanding structure of the ARN compound. Good morning and welcome to Light the Tower on the Horn. 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. My name is Craig Way. Glad to have you with us. Glad to be back home after a weekend in Fort Worth. Not that there's anything wrong in Fort Worth, but Fort Worth is Fort Worth, and Austin is Austin. So it's good to be here. Always good to be joined by my co-host, the pride of Northwest Williamson County, a proud graduate of Florence High School.
Absolutely.
He was an honorable mention all-district offensive lineman where they knew him as Highway 79. But you know him best for his outstanding work at Horns 24/7. That's Jeff Howe. How you doing today?
Didn't get to do any show prep this morning because I was about to jump in the shower at, about 7:45-ish this morning. And got a call from the wife that my young daughter, which I'm sure this is going to be the first of many of these incidents.
She misbehave again?
No, forgot her backpack.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have a lot of that.
Drive over and drop it off.
Yeah.
Thankfully, one of the teachers was pulling up right when I was walking in, so that saved me the whole deal from having to buzz in and sign in and facial scan and DNA test and urine sample and all the stuff you have to do to get into school.
Full body cavity search. So if we're telling the truth here, that never really ends all the way into adulthood. How many times, if we're telling the truth, have you or I forgotten our backpack?
You remember that one day I was late when I forgot mine?
Yep. It's happening with me. So it happens. It probably hasn't happened to our producer because he's always on top of things.
He's a play-by-play prodigy for a reason.
He is. That's why he was out in Big Spring, Texas over the weekend. He's Cameron Parker, who joins us. How you doing, Cam?
I'm doing good. And yeah, I've left my backpack one or few times.
Okay.
Cam, I just have one question for you to start the show today.
Let's do it.
Are you ready to get to this Sark audio at the bottom of the hour finally?
We're going to do it?
Yes. That's
okay. I mean, I heard it yesterday, Jeff, and we never got to it.
Well, we got too wrapped up talking draft.
That's true.
Talking plenty of draft.
You guys were drowning in draft coverage yesterday,
Ron Holland, and we had business. We had business. It was Business Monday yesterday.
It's a Business Tuesday as well, you might say. So yes, Sark thoughts and commentary coming up around the bottom of the hour with our first hour Longhorn Notebook. Second hour around the bottom of the hour. This ought to make Tom Emily Wolfan very, very happy because Tom is our resident Texas tennis expert. Howard Jaffe, head coach of the Texas women's team, which is the number 8 national seed, hosting the regionals this weekend. Of course, the men are the number 1 overall seed. They're hosting NCAA regional. But we're going to visit with Howard and talk about their upcoming NCAA tournament. So we're going to do that. We got a lot of things to get to. We'll hear from David Pierce, Longhorns head baseball coach, following the completion of the series in Fort Worth and getting ready for the turnaround and headed up to Lawrence, Kansas. It's a little quicker turnaround since they finished on Monday. So a player's day off today, and then they've got basically a day and a half of work to get in before they get on the plane and head up to Lawrence, Kansas, and get ready for the Kansas Jayhawks this coming weekend. So there are a lot of things. NBA playoffs. How about James Harden last night? 45 for the Sixers. Yeah, for me, last night was one of those games. By the time I got home on the drive back, Roger Wallace and I driving back from Fort Worth, the NBA game was well underway. And so we get there, and Linda had prepared this nice dinner and everything to do that. And I was kind of flipping around. We were waiting on the Dodger game as well, and there's a Texas connection with that coming up to get to. And so I flip it on, and I'm like, oh, the game's still on. And it was a minute to go in the game, and the Celtics were up, I think, 3 points. And in the classic thing where the old standby thing where folks say, the only interest I have in the NBA, turn it on with a minute to go and you're fine. Well, that's exactly what happened. I turned it on. There was a minute to go in the game. It was a 3-point Celtics lead. And then the Sixers wind up what was like an 8-2 run or something like that. And they wind up winning the ball game last night.
I'll be honest. I did some housework, did the dishes, because I'm one of those people, I don't know if that's an OCD thing, but if like there's a couple of plates or something in the sink, I just short circuits my brain.
Well, you said the other day that's you kind of go to a place of meditation.
It's
and
my
thought
happy place mowing the yard, which I got to do that.
Yeah, it's when you're either mowing the yard or doing dishes, right?
Mm-hmm. So I did that, and then wife got home. We had we watched a rerun of The Good Doctor, which that's one of those deals. I'm kind of in and out. I'm on my phone.
I've never seen that program before.
It's neither one of those things. Many things in life, Craig. Neither fish nor fowl for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of watching it on the phone and put Charlotte to bed, and then I just kind of hung out in my office. Just kind of kept basketball on as really background noise.
Okay.
Kind of getting a little bit of work done, a little perusing the message board at Horns 24/7. So not a ton of sports viewing for me last night.
I understand. Did you hear what happened?
I like the Stoner says, no, Cameron and I were not talking as much draft as we were talking about the Poncho's experience in semi-pro college sports, i.e. Division I basketball. But I forgot to mention this. Somebody mentioned yesterday when we were having a Poncho's conversation that stealing the flag was like wearing a badge of honor. Cameron, I don't know if you ever
Actually,
played this.
Steal the
flag. It's kind of like back in the day, stealing the number at Whataburger was a big deal. Like they give you the plastic number, yeah. But that was kind of run of the mill stuff. If you were bold, and I did have a friend one time. We did go to Poncho's, and he did leave with a flag. He's like, I love the sopapillas so much. I didn't raise the flag. I stole it, walked out with it. That's pretty bold if you're going to steal the flag at Poncho's.
Wow.
It's a level up, but to me, it's a level up from taking the Whataburger.
See, I'd heard about the Whataburger number, and I can neither confirm nor deny that one of my daughters was involved in such a heinous activity at one time.
Especially if, like, the Whataburger number corresponded with a jersey number you wore, or if you got, if number 69 was your Whataburger number, then that one was going home with somebody.
Yeah, did it ever get to a point where you were able to find a Whataburger number 79? I mean, that's getting up there.
Never came across my order, Craig.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. And as always, we do offer you the opportunity to avail yourself of the Specs text line at 337-3776, 512-337-3776. When last we visited before I left town, our friend MJ from Hearn was going to have a package delivered, and he just texted and said, Jeff, did you get that package yesterday?
You know what? Craig, you check the text line. I'm going to go out in the hall, see if it's there real quick.
How about that?
All right, let me go check. I don't have a mailbox here, but let me go check and see if it's there.
Okay, so he'll do that. Our friend Gringo said, what's embarrassing is when you go to school and realize you forgot your pants. Now, that would be embarrassing. Here's something else that's embarrassing. It's kind of along those lines. This happened to me in the 6th grade. And I went 1 year to this one specific elementary school. We where I grew up in North Carolina, and I know it was like this in a lot of places in Texas, the elementary school went all the way through 6th grade, and then what was called junior high was 7, 8, 9, even though your 9th grade academic record counted on your high school transcript, obviously, your freshman year of high school. But the way the school system was structured back then in North Carolina, you went elementary school, 1st grade through 6th grade, what was then junior high, middle school, 7, 8, 9, and then it'd be your high school 10, 11, 12. Now, I also know there's several schools around our area that have a 9th grade campus. And in Plano, they have what are called high schools and then senior high schools, 9th and 10th, and one in the junior senior. So there's several about that around the area, and I'm well aware of that. So folks don't have to text in with those. But my point was going to be, since we were talking about embarrassing moments, and Gringo said what's really embarrassing is when you go in and you
go to school without pants.
You go to school without pants. That did not happen to me. What did happen to me was in 6th grade at this elementary school, we were having one of those school project days where you picked out a famous figure from history, American history or world history, and you dressed up as that character. So, whatever, King George or George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or whatever. And for whatever reason, I guess I was just fascinated with his biography. I selected the Scottish sailor John Paul Jones, who became an American hero because he was basically a hired gun, if you will, a privateer who helped the American Revolutionary War effort with his ship.
Wasn't he in Led Zeppelin?
John Paul Jones, yeah, a little bit different one.
Okay.
The Bonhomme Richard in a big battle. It's the famous sea battle where you hear him, where they ask him when they're getting the broadsides coming into the ship, and Captain Pearson asks him calls across the bow and says, "Are you surrendering?" And he says, "I have not." Are you ready to give up the fight? He says, "I have not yet begun to fight." That was the famous quote.
Oh, that's right up there with the Patrick Henry, "Give me liberty or give me death."
It was right around that same time. This happened in 1779, so it would have been a few years after. So he says, "I've not yet begun to fight." And they go on and they come back and they end up winning the battle. So John Paul Jones is like this American Revolutionary War naval hero. So I decided I was going to dress up as John Paul Jones for this deal. So I tell my mom this. And my mom makes this really nice costume for me, and I've got the breeches that are kind of like knickers, and you have the white socks and the buckled shoes, and probably the puffy pirate shirt.
Did you wear a powdered wig?
I did not, but I had a tri-corner hat.
Nice. Yeah.
So it was the whole thing, and I was pretty pumped up about it.
So you basically look like the New England Patriots logo.
It was kind of like that. And I did not want to get on the school bus with that because I rode a school bus there. I didn't want to do that because kids would make fun of you and this and that and all that other kind of stuff. So my dad said, "I'll take you to school. I'll drop you off." He drops me off. I start to walk in, and I see a guy from my 6th grade class, and he's dressed regular. And I said, "What are you dressed up as?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Dressed up for our day." And he goes, "That's next Tuesday. It's not today."
Oh, no.
So I was just mortified. I did. I went into the principal's office on my own and just sat down, and I was near in tears. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they said, "Hold on." And they went into a lost and found bin and found me a shirt and a pair of pants and a pair of sneakers, because remember, I'm wearing buckled shoes. And they said, "We'll just keep this to ourselves." And then they hung up my costume on it and said, "Put these clothes on." And I did, awesome. And then I went to school and had a regular day, and then took my costume. And then 1 week later, I did get it right and went in, and it was judged the best costume in the classroom. So it worked out. But it was that kind of embarrassing moment at school. It was just shocking at the time, but I was able to extricate myself from that, thanks to the office staff there. Yeah, get out of it. From a bad situation. So thanks so much to the administration of Millis Road Elementary School in the spring of 1972. That's when that happened, when I was in 6th grade. So anyway, there's lots of other things to discuss as well.
Hey, before we get too much further, let's talk about your drop in on the ticket this morning.
Okay. All right. Well, were you, did that jog your memory? Because Gambling Fanatic is going Dallas Stars, Dallas Stars, Dallas Stars, because they were talking about the series opener coming tonight between the Dallas Stars and the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken, who pulled the upset as knocking out the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. There's already been 2 shocking upsets between that and the Boston Bruins, the 1 seed with the best regular season record in NHL history, being taken out by the Florida Panthers in the first round. But they were talking about that on the ticket this morning.
So you got to call in. So they were talking about the Seattle Kraken mascot, and you had to call in, Craig. You were asked to call in for your
they called me.
Your top 5 was it your top 5 off the rails mascot names?
Yeah, it was that thing. Our good friend George Dunham from the ticket, he called me on the drive back from Fort Worth yesterday and said, "Listen, we're doing a thing in the morning and we're talking about the Seattle Kraken." He goes, which I think is just a ridiculous mascot name, the Kraken. And I laughed. And he said, "But I want to do a thing where we talk about the most wheels off mascot names of all time. And you are the person that would you pop on with us? I said, well, of course, whatever for you guys, whatever. So they called me and they asked me for my top 5 nuttiest high school mascot names. And I said, well, we've been down this road before, the best Texas mascot names. I'm always going to put Itasca-Wampus Cats at the top of the list. And I said, you can put the Hutto Hippos right there. We're all used to the Hippos, but it sounds unique to so many people. And it is unique. It's the only Hippos in Texas. And the Grandview Zebras and the Canepa Purple Rock Crushers and the Ocampo Rice Birds and the Rock Springs Angoras. And I said, who would want to name their mascot after a goat with long silken hair? That's what an Angora is.
Robstown's one of those that always stands out for me.
Yep. There's that one. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of those. And then I said there's some, but in terms of the wheels off stuff, I said there's some honorable mentions. The Glendale Dynamiters in California, the Morrilton Devil Dogs in Arkansas, where they've got these big gargoyle statues up there. Gabs,
weird about that. My wife has family that they teach in the Morrilton schools.
Oh, really? So they're quite comfortable with Devil Dogs.
I've been to Morrilton, Arkansas, Craig.
All right. You've been there in Devil Dog country. Yeah. Gabs Tarantulas in Gabs, Nevada. And the Kannapolis Wonder Boys, which was in my high school's district, or conference as they call it back then. They went with the Wonders for short. But the 5 most bizarre, as I call them, mascot names for me, high school. Number 5, from Churchland, Virginia, the Churchland Truckers. And
that one's, I kind of dig that one for some reason.
Everybody kind of likes that one a little bit. It's just weird. They called the Truckers. It has nothing to do with truck driving or anything, really. They just like the logo, the Keep On Truckin' dude from the 70s, and they adopted that. Number 4 was the St. Stanislaus Rockachaws. This was from base St. Louis, Mississippi, down along the Gulf Coast.
So weird.
Private Catholic school. When I called down there, because I would call these principals and school officials to get the history of why the mascot name was chosen. And in St. Stanislaus, I got a hold of Brother Akin Gautier of St. Stanislaus in base St. Louis, Mississippi, and he said, a rockachaw is kind of a sticky little buh. And I said, what? A sticky little buh. That you walk on in, I said, oh, you mean like those sticker balls that you'd walk on, that little stem on the end? Yeah, that's their mascot name. That was number 4. Number 3 was the Orofino Maniacs from Orofino, Idaho. And I thought, well, that's kind of an aggressive name, but it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I called to talk to the principal, and the school custodian answers the phone. And he said, yeah, they're all down at the pep rally. So it was like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're down at a pep rally. So I'm the only one here. I said, well, maybe you can help me on this. Why would the school choose the name Maniacs? He said, you know what? I really don't know. Some people think it's because we have a state mental hospital right down the road from us, but I don't think that's the reason. I'm like, okay. Number 2.
We'll go with that. That sounds fitting.
Number 2 is a school that no longer carries this mascot name due to controversy. In Devil's Lake, North Dakota, they're the Devil's Lake Satans. And they had a little, kind of like a deep blue devil type of logo, but they went by the Satans. The school board finally booted it out, and
good call.
Yeah, and so they let the students choose the name. So they wanted to kind of keep it in that realm. So they went with the Blaze, but the school officials thought that was a drug reference, like blazing a fatty or hooting a spliff, something like that. So they tossed it out, and so they ended up with the Firebirds. And then the number 1 high school bizarre mascot name of all time, I've mentioned this before, it has to be, is from Yuma, Arizona. It's the Yuma Criminals.
Yeah.
And he said, why would a school pick criminals? And when I talked to the principal, she said it was because the original schoolhouse was in the old famous Yuma prison. And there's even a movie called 310 to Yuma. It was redone in the 2000s, but the original one had Glenn Ford in it, and about where he's got to transfer a prisoner there to the Yuma prison. And it was in the old original historic Yuma prison. And I laughed, and I said, what were the school's original color, black and white stripes? And she said, yes. Just deadpan. I was like, okay, I'll make a note of that. So that was it. That was why awesome. They had me on this morning.
It's great.
So
Texter, unfortunately, Gerald's mascot is not the armpits. So
no,
that's
the
just hearsay.
They're the Cougars. They just, Gringo says the minor leagues have quite a few. My grandson, I went to see him play.
I used to like the Chattanooga Lookouts with the big eyes.
Yeah, and that's with Lookout Mountain being there. I mean, my grandson played first year in coach pitch. I went to see him Saturday morning before Texas played Saturday night. He was playing in Flower Mound, and they were the Cardinals. But the T-ball team he had played, he'd elevated up to coach pitch. The T-ball team he played for is called the Bananas, and it's after that minor league team, the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
So when he was elevated up to coach pitch, it created a roster spot. And who should get that roster spot? None other than Hank Tepper, Greg Tepper's son in his first. And so he shows up Saturday morning, and Aaron Hardigan was there, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
We'll just have High School Scoreboard live.
That's what we said. We said Flower Mound Youth Sports Association edition of that. So they were there. So Bananas is a weird one. Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, and there's
Toledo Mud Hens is always a good one.
Yeah, and that's a classic one that's been around. I mean, my hometown, Greensboro Grasshoppers. Mm-hmm. There's lots of weird the Fayetteville Woodpeckers in North Carolina, and the Down East Wood Ducks. I mean, there's lots of strange ones.
Like about Round Rock, like it's unique, it stands out.
But Reed Ryan will tell you, and I was on the same page as he did not want Express. He wanted Fire Ants, and that's what I wanted when they had the name the team contest. Mm-hmm. I wanted the Round Rock Fire Ants. And I thought it would have been perfect, but
that would have been cool.
But we all got used to Express, and it has its.
In the state of Texas, you'll just have to deal with Progresso, right? You've still got the Progresso Red Ants.
The marching Red Ants. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The Fighting Okra is a weird mascot named someplace. Delta State. They used to be the Devils. Delta State Devils. Yeah, the Fighting Okra over there. That's in Cleveland, Mississippi. Montgomery Biscuits. Yeah, AA affiliate. I've seen a Biscuits game there. Before. So, yeah, there's lots of weird ones on that. So, absolutely. So makes you when I'm sad, I need Craig to call me and say, blazing a fatty. I had somebody else text me somewhere and said, I never thought I'd hear you actually say the word, but it's a term.
Cameron's going to mark that, and we'll have it be a promo or something.
That one and hooting a spliff, one of those. Okay. All right. We have our Longhorn notebook coming up. We do have Inconceivable as well. And so a lot to get to today. We're going to hear from Sark coming up as we continue to Light the Tower here on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. One thing I know for sure is whether you're watching pro sports or college sports or just your entertainment options right now. Like, for example, last night Linda told me she'd already started that final season of Ted Lasso, and I said, I got to catch up to you on that. And you're wanting to stream everything in and watch everything in the way that you want it, the style that you want it, and configured how you want it, then you need to be in touch with Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations. They have the equipment, the expertise, the knowledge, and the vision to help you make your vision a reality there, your den or man cave or family room, outside patio, bedroom, whatever it might be. They have the equipment. You don't have to worry about venturing out into the big box stores and dealing with those prices because Tom and his staff are not raising prices like those others are. They're staying very competitive with it all. And not only that, you don't have to worry about the mounting and the equipment and all of that stuff that it takes to do it. So be sure, go to online first at Audiovisual Consultation. Check out what they have. And then give Tom and his staff a call today at 512-255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. This is Light the Tower here on the Horn. I meant to tell Cameron we got busy during the break, and I'm perfectly fine with the OJs here with backstabbers, what they do. But we are going to have to pay tribute to the late, great Gordon Lightfoot, who passed away at the age of 84. We're going to have to pay tribute to him at some point. But this is a Tuesday edition of Light the Tower here on the Horn, and time now for our first hour edition of the Notebook.
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
All right, finally. And the reason why I'm doing this is because Cameron worked really hard to cut this audio and have it prepared. And as of tomorrow, it'll be a week old. So I want to make sure we get to this. And, hey, it's always an appropriate time to talk Longhorn football. So this is Steve Sarkisian last Wednesday at the Touchdown Club of Houston luncheon. This is not audio from the luncheon. This is the press conference he had before the luncheon. And we'll start with this, with the Michigan game getting changed. And we know, Craig, I saw somebody saying, well, this was already announced. No, this was widely assumed that the game was going to be moved to Texas, playing in Ann Arbor in 2024, most likely to appease Fox for the lost revenue, which also makes sense because in back-to-back years, Texas will go to Ann Arbor and Columbus, and then, I don't know, probably at that point be done with having to deal with Fox. And by the way, plan on those being big noon kickoffs unless things change. I would love a night game at the Big House, but sounds like we'll get a kegs and eggs on that day, Craig, most likely.
Yeah,
but,
I think you're probably right.
But, you look at the rest of the non-conference series Texas has scheduled. Georgia's one of them, which starting next year, that won't be a non-conference game. Florida, starting next year, that won't be a non-conference game either. So Sark was asked, based on the news about the Michigan series getting changed, his opinion on non-conference scheduling and what that might look like as Texas goes into the SEC.
Well, I think there's a lot of value to having big non-conference games. Obviously we had Alabama last year at home. We're going to Alabama this year in 23. I think we go to Michigan in 24. We go to Ohio State in 25, and then Ohio State comes back in 26. Michigan comes back in 27. In the end, I think as you go through training camp, everybody has their sights on your conference play and what that looks like. But I also think you have to prepare yourself for what that's going to look like. And having those big non-conference games early in the season sometimes serve you really well in about week 3 of training camp, when it feels like, man, we're just beating the heck out of each other and the season seems so far down the road. But now when you have that big game kind of early in your season, man, that can serve as a tool to keep guys motivated, and the coaches can use that tool, and you can start to game plan a little bit to break up some of the monotony. And you find out about your team. You find out about, how guys respond against a really quality opponent, how they respond going into some hostile environments, and where your team needs to grow up. And you don't have to suffer if you don't play well and you happen to lose that game. It doesn't have to be catastrophic from a conference standing perspective. And I think more importantly now than ever, with us going to, as moving forward to a 12-team, college football playoff, one loss in a non-conference game isn't going to feel as catastrophic, because I think you're going to see multiple lost teams in that playoff. I mean, just look at the last decade and take 1 through 12 in the rankings. How many losses did Team 12 have, or Team 11, or Team 10? You're looking at some 3-loss teams that are going to be in the playoffs. So now it serves you to go play a quality non-conference opponent, knowing if you don't win, you could withstand it. If you do win, man, that gains a lot of momentum and confidence for your team moving forward.
I go back and forth on this, Craig, when you talk about a quality non-conference opponent. And I really think, for CDC, and I know Sark has some input on this, but ultimately, there are people in the athletic department that are going to do the schedules. I think you almost have to go back to that Mac Brown model when the Big 12 you played 9 conference games. And I just loved Mac's philosophy of your 3 non-conference games should be the game where you kind of roll the ball out and you know what's going to happen.
Which is usually the opener.
Yeah, your tune-up. Your second game should be preferably an in-state opponent, but like what now would be a group of 5 opponent that's going to push you a little bit. You got to show up. You got to put in some effort. And then your third game is a Power 5 opponent. that should really get you ready for conference play. As far as that game goes, there's some really intriguing options. So the SEC schools are obviously off the table when Texas joins that league. But I think about, would they rather schedule a Texas Tech, a Baylor, a TCU for that game? Or would they like to go maybe to the Big Ten or the ACC and get some matchups that we haven't seen in a while or ever? Like, would you like to do maybe a home-and-home with Nebraska? Get that thing maybe going for a couple of years. The one that I would love, Craig, absolutely 100%, because they've never played each other. I want a Texas-Florida State home-and-home.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. I don't think that, and also I've heard coaches say this. I heard Max say it one time, but I've heard lots of coaches say this, that the non-conference game has to be won in a number of areas that benefits your program. A number of areas. And they say, well, how does playing UTSA or whatever, or UTEP or Texas State or whatever benefit the program? That's an in-state thing. And so there's
within the system too.
Yeah, in the case of UTSA and UTEP for sure. So that benefits in that respect. There's and maybe a competitive thing, that sort of stuff. But I like the thought of intersectional matchups. I think the Michigan thing's really cool, and Ohio State is really cool, and obviously Alabama is, even though they're about to be conference opponents. And,
right.
Some of those other ones like that. I don't know that – what's the best way to put this? Second-tier Power 5 non-conference games are that helpful.
Right.
Nebraska would fall into that category for me.
Florida, when Texas played North Carolina.
Yeah, but except that Carolina was still, pretty good and reasonable at the time, and that was part of a deal. John Mackovic made that schedule.
Would UCLA be a better example, maybe, where UCLA was at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There it is. Obviously, USC, with what Lincoln Riley's doing with the program now, that's a different issue, and you have the great. But like when they played Virginia.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd put Nebraska in that category. I'd put Colorado in that category.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just some
Stanford at the time. Yeah, there's okay. I see where you're.
If you played Northwestern or sorry, Bucky, Boston College. I mean, there's some that aren't going to carry the cachet. If you're going to play a Power 5 school, you need to play a Power 5 school.
Right. I like the Florida State thing.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by that. Clemson would be one.
Yep.
That. Have they ever played each other, Texas and Clemson?
Nope.
Okay, all the more reason for it to happen. I'm thinking like you go to the Big Ten, like Texas. It's been a while since Texas has played Penn State.
That would be good. Even Michigan State would be good.
Yeah,
off of that. But they're getting ready, of course, to play Michigan.
Notre Dame, Texas is always going to be attractive for eyeballs. When we talk about Big Ten teams, you'd have to talk about USC at that point.
Yes, and let me say this with regard to the West Coast. One of my best friends on the planet is a huge avowed Oregon State grad and all that. That wouldn't benefit Texas that much to play Oregon State. They played them in that bowl game, obviously.
Yeah.
Oregon, different issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You could even make that case with Washington as well, with the profile of Washington State. Not so much.
Right.
So I think it depends. Cal, like a few years ago, of course, the program was at a lower ebb here at the time when that was set up. So,
I mean, in theory, Maryland, but we know what.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you see what happened with
theory,
that. Yeah,
Maryland.
That's the theory. Somebody said just put that in there on the deal. So I understand that. Somebody said, did they ever have a home and home against Clemson? They did not.
So there are some really intriguing matchups that and I'm not saying you do that to avoid TCU or Baylor or Tech or just to stick it to the Big 12 or whatever. But if you want to branch out, there's some really interesting matchups going to the Big 10 and the ACC that you can schedule that I think for not just for your fan base, but I think for college football fans. Like, you don't think the networks would say, hey, Clemson and Texas in Austin, Labor Day weekend. Is that your Monday night game, your Sunday night game?
Right.
That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. I think that's where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Can it be, your marquee type game? Cam, I'm gonna give you producer's choice on the next cut. What else we got from Sark?
I think he had a really interesting response when he was asked about what are the team's roster needs. Now, obviously, the portal is now closed, but I thought this was a really interesting response from Sark asking what was the team's needs after spring ball.
I don't know if we necessarily have a need. there's obviously some luxuries, and again, you kind of monitor the portal of what's going on. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen more activity in the portal than what we saw kind of in December and January. That doesn't mean it's over yet. Just like we do exit meetings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday coming out of our spring game. Those exit meetings are going on around the country as well right now too. And so I would expect to see maybe a little bit more movement from a portal perspective around the country. If there's something there that kind of piques our interest, we'll look at it, but we're not actively we have to get this position filled. I feel comfortable with our team that we have right now. But that doesn't mean that we won't explore some things. But I feel good about where we're at.
The two spots that I was thinking about were off-ball linebacker was one, just because you wanted some combination of the guys you have other than Jalen Ford to get to a point in the spring where you said, okay, we don't need to go into the portal to get linebacker help. And edge is one of I think edge and maybe from a number standpoint, tight end would be the only two positions I think that you could do it if you're Texas. There's a problem with that. They don't have any spots right now. And the fact that there hasn't been any attrition so far other than the four guys that entered right off the bat, that tells you, I think, that guys probably feel like, based on what they were told from Sark in their exit meetings, that they've got a chance to compete for whatever spot they deem is keep getting them on an upward trajectory this summer going into camp, that their hope is still alive for wherever they want to be on this roster. Now keep in mind with the portal is closed. So if somebody entered, if they got their name into compliance by the close of business Sunday, they can still pop up in the portal today. So if you get to the close of business today and nobody's in the portal, then you'll definitely know at that point, okay, good, done, over with, nobody in the portal for sure. Here's the catch though, and I think this is maybe where you could see some attrition this summer, depending on how guys view their status on the depth chart. Grad transfers can go into the portal at any time.
That's a good point. That's the large exception.
So if let's say a guy graduates this month and then comes back for summer conditioning and just realizes, you know what, I think it's time for me to move on, because we've seen that plenty of times, Craig. We've seen that before. Mm-hmm. At that point, that would open up a spot. And then you can go into the portal and figure, okay, based on where that guy is, do we need to go into the portal to get depth there? Can one of the young guys fill that spot? Whatever it is. So not quite completely done with the portal, but you're a few hours away from breaking the tape on that deal and going into the summer, by and large, with your roster intact.
Yeah.
We got time for maybe a couple more, Cam. Anything else top of mind for you?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off the roster needs. Sark was asked on the Pivot podcast, I believe it's now 2 weeks ago, about his team. And Sark had an interesting quote where he said it feels like a Steve Sarkisian team.
Yeah.
He was asked, can you expand on that?
I looked at when we went to build this roster, we had two pods, right? We had a pod of players that we inherited, right? That signed up for something totally different than what we were going to bring. Culturally, schematically, position coaches. So as we worked with this pod over here, how were we going to get them to buy into who we are? Who we are schematically, offense, defense, special teams, and who we are culturally. And through that time, you have natural attrition. You have players that graduate, you have players that transfer, you have players that leave, that go on to the NFL, and then you have other players that kind of slowly but surely buy into what you're doing. And so now in year 3, we've got a group of guys who have been here the entire time that we've been here, that believe in everything that we're doing. The way we weight train, the way we condition, the way we practice, the culture, the camaraderie that we have. So that's a very positive group. Over here now, I've got a group of young men that I've recruited. And we've now had 2 consecutive recruiting classes that have solely been our recruiting classes, whether they've been high school kids or transfers, where inevitably, yes, there's the physical attributes that they need to fit in criteria for us of what we're looking for as linemen or receivers or safeties. But 2, do they meet the character aspects of what we're looking for to fit into our culture quickly? And I think that we've done a good job here. I think that we've done a good job here. And so all of a sudden now we've got a group of young men that I think are bought into who we are, what we're about. We look the part, right? We look how we want to look. But culturally and who we are as a team, I think more importantly, that's what makes me feel good about it. I like the way we think, the way we act, the way we talk, the way we dress, the way we go about our business, the way we represent the University of Texas, the way we practice, the way we play. Those are all signs of things that, man, this looks like how I wanted our football team at Texas to look.
Greg, I want to get your take on this because you've seen enough Texas coaching regimes now to get a feel for this. You think about John Makovic's team, how it looked his first year in 1992, and then what it looked like in 94. That season before they went on the run, winning 2 conference championships. What Mac's team looked like in 98, and then what it looked like in 2000. Even Charlie in 2014, and then what it looked like in 16 his last year. And then for Tom Herman, what it looked like in 17, and then what it looked like in 19 coming off that Sugar Bowl win over Georgia. I think Sark is on the money because all those examples I just mentioned, you can see those teams. You could see the vision of that coach coming to life with what the roster looked like going into year 3. The difference is varying levels of success with all 3 of those guys. And in Charlie's case, year 3 was his last year. But, the proof is ultimately going to be in the pudding. It looks like your team. Now it's, does your philosophy, does your way of roster building, does your vision for the program, is that a winning vision? Is that a championship level vision? And is this the year for Sark where you start to see that?
And I also think the dynamics have changed a bit. In the prior examples of what you were talking about, John Makovic back in 92, which was my first year in the booth, in the broadcast booth after I'd been the studio anchor from 88 to 91. It wasn't a complete rebuild, but it was a rebuild coming off the 5 and 6, and the prior year before that was the Shock the Nation tour. But even that was a stunner. That was a one-off there because they'd had a 4 and 7 and a 5 and 6 involved in there. When Mac took over, obviously it was coming off a 4 and 7. It was really a rough situation there. And I think even though Texas went to a bowl game in Mac's last year, when Charlie started, I think folks knew it was going to be a teardown and start up over again. And the same thing, obviously, with Tom Herman. And while it was not a complete teardown and rebuild for Sark, it was getting the caliber of player that he envisions what he needed. We heard all the talk about the big humans and all that sort of stuff. That was a big piece of it, a big part of it.
Want to win with size inside, speed outside.
And that wasn't always the philosophy involved. I think one of the most misunderstood philosophies in building a football program is the interpretation of the word speed. And, the old Cliff Gustafson thing about speed ain't ever had a bad day. Speed doesn't have a bad day, but if all you have is speed and you don't have size inside, fast enough ain't going to save you on that sort of thing. And I think that was proven over time. Football's different than other sports in that respect. So the building of the programs are better, and that's where your point is coming in. And I agree with you about how Sark has this team much more in the vision for how he projects it going forward, the right combination of size at the right spot and speed in the areas where you have to have it most, and athleticism across the board.
This team, Sark's year 3 of all those others, really reminds me of Mac's year 3 because you still had some holdovers from the John Makovic regime, right? Leonard Davis, Casey Hampton, Sean Rogers, NFL caliber players that were still around. And you look at, JT Sanders was a guy that Sark inherited, and you can go on down the line. But the big difference was you looked at that 99 recruiting class with Rod and Corey Redding and Chris Sims and Bo Scaife and Derek Dockery on top of that 2000 class with Nathan Vasher and Roy Williams and B.J. Johnson. You looked at that 2000 roster and you said, man, in my lifetime following the program, I'm like, I haven't seen a roster look like these guys look like guys that are going to play in the NFL. And I think what we saw in the spring game, that should have been the takeaway. I think that a lot of people had, like, it's been a minute since we've seen guys on the hoof that just, and that was whether it was any of our national guys at 24/7 Sports that watched the spring game, any of our guys at CBS that watched the spring game, that was kind of the one consensus takeaway is, it's been a long time since I've seen a Texas roster that looked like this roster looks.
Right, and we all understand that nobody's making any statements of being absolute. We all understand you still have to, like you said, proof is in the pudding. You got to have to prove it on the field.
I think we all thought going into 19, Tom Herman was there, right?
Yep.
But it ultimately, by the end of the deal, we know what happened.
So the proof is truly there to be proved. It has to happen, but at least they're better positioned on that. I heard Bucky and Aaron talking about this morning. I guess what Vegas is putting Texas at a plus 160 to win the Big 12. They have the highest odds or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to admit I'm totally out of my depth when you're talking about gambling odds and whatnot. Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. In other words, that's the best odds for that sort of thing. And I don't really pay that much attention to it because it's a different game. What, as Brent Musburger is so fond of saying, friends in the desert, it's a different game what they're looking for. They're not necessarily just looking for who the best team is going to be. They're looking at it at a number that's going to drive action one way or the other, whether they truly believe that or not. Yeah. So I think it's a combination.
Yeah, it's I guess it's Caesars. I think that has it out. Texas at a plus 180, followed by Oklahoma, TCU,
and that's why I say it can be a measuring tool, a measuring stick of the interest on that and what it might be, but I don't think it tells the full story on that because of the mindset that those people have out there about what their goal and purpose is for what they want, and that's to drive revenue with both sides of it, action on both sides. That's how they make their money.
Cameron, great job, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for your diligent work.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you've done to your body for this show. It's appreciated.
Next hour, like we said, Howard Jaffe, Texas women's tennis coach, will join us. Also, we're going to hear from David Pierce next hour following the loss to TCU yesterday. And somebody had a UT pitching with a sad face on it. Yeah, yesterday it was like that. Did you see the first two games? The ones that Texas, the pitching was on par. And they're not a finished product with what they have to do with pitching. So that's why it's the one example you point out, absolutely. But there was solid pitching in game one, especially from Lucas Gordon, and really good pitching in game two, especially from LeBaron Johnson, if you saw that as well.
It's kind of the scary thing with LBJ and scary, but I mean, like if this is the start of him establishing consistency, then you've definitely got an arm that can win you high leverage games in the postseason.
So, and that's the key. That's the rub. The what ifs going down the rest of the regular season. No midweek game this week. They leave on Thursday for Lawrence, Kansas. Coming up, inconceivable when we continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. Live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Well, hoping that you're doing well, hoping that you guys are also feeling well. If something feels a little strange, different, maybe it doesn't feel bad, but it just didn't feel right, and you want to get that checked out, and you don't want to have to deal with the whole doctor's office routine with a lot of that stuff, go to Total Men's Primary Care, and you can get that physical there at Total Men's. Easy to do. You click on the button where it says book an appointment, and then you can make that appointment and be seen that same day at any of their more than 20 Austin area locations. So whether it's a physical or weight loss consultation, they have a diet and a medication program designed for the biology of your body. Maybe it's a low T issue. They are experts when it comes to dealing with low testosterone as well, and they can help you with that as well and start off with the consultation there. So check them out on the web at TotalMens.com. It's Total Men's Primary Care, the doctor's office just for men. Apparently, some folks think it's inconceivable to hear me utter the words "blazing a fatty." I mean, that's already drawn some action there on the Twitters. By the way, you heard me say this before. New Twitter handle for me because that other Twitter account was just a mess and couldn't get it squared away with the folks from Twitter. So I had to establish a whole new account. It's under @HornVoice. So that was the deal. I was actually going to use my name in it again, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
But unless I was willing to add like 6 digits to it, and I don't mean dollar signs. I'm talking about actually you would have to add all these numbers to it. At Craig Way, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or something, because there was almost all manner of things involving my name or the letter C with Way were taken. That's
I think we could have come up with something.
Well, I went with Horn Voice, so it was just easier to remember that. So it did that. But,
there you go.
So anyway, all right.
Am I leading off or are you?
You're leading off.
All right. Thank you, John in the Bay, for this contribution. Cam, this kind of goes in line with that one we had yesterday a little bit, just kind of like weird stuff happening. A Texas man dining with a woman left the restaurant and killed a fake parking attendant who swindled him out of $40 before returning to the eatery to finish the date. This according to police. Eric Aguirre, 29, was out on probation for an aggravated assault when he allegedly shot dead 46-year-old Elliot Nix in Houston on April 11th over a phony parking scheme. Aguirre, who is facing murder charges, appeared in court Thursday, and his bond was set at $200,000, that according to KPRC. According to investigators, Aguirre and the woman parked separately in the lot in the city's, Edo neighborhood. I'm not familiar with Houston. EADO, capital E, capital D. Somebody from Houston's going to have to help me out with that. The pair was approached by Nix, who lied and said he was a parking attendant and asked them for $40 for both of their cars. Aguirre then walked to a corner store, got the cash, and paid Nix before he and his date sat down at a local burger joint. Rodeo Goat, investigators said. There was a waiter who knew the guy was scamming people for parking, and he advised them, hey, that guy is scamming you for parking. An attorney for Aguirre's date, Rick DeToto, told the outlet. An enraged Aguirre, imagine this guy's out for aggravated assault, he would become enraged.
Yeah, bro. I'll show him.
He was then spotted by witnesses at a nearby smoke shop, sprinting back to his car, grabbing a handgun and chasing Nix down the street. A witness said he didn't see the shooting but heard a gunshot ring out shortly before 8 p.m. Aguirre allegedly shot Nix and left his body on the side of the road. That's according to investigators. He then, quote unquote, nonchalantly walked back, put the gun back in his car, and returned to the restaurant. He allegedly told the woman that, quote, everything was fine, end quote, and that he just scared the man, according to court documents obtained by Fox News. Quote, at some point, he said he was uncomfortable with the restaurant and they left to eat somewhere else. Well, yeah, I would be uncomfortable too if I just murdered a guy a couple of blocks away. Houston police officers responded to a call about the shooting and found Nix unresponsive with a gunshot wound. He was transported by EMS to an area hospital where he was declared dead. Aguirre's date had no clue what had happened until police released the photos of the two together and said they were wanted for questioning in the shooting. She voluntarily called police and was interviewed on April 13th. According to her attorney, quote, she wanted to do the right thing. She wanted to make sure that she came forward and told police what she knew. A warrant was issued for his arrest on April 15th. He was arrested in Corpus Christi and brought back to Harris County, where he was booked into jail on Tuesday.
Okay, that's a bizarre murder story in Texas. I got a bizarre murder story for you. Maybe it's not that bizarre because it happened in Oklahoma.
Nothing in that state surprises me.
See if this raises your eyebrow a bit.
Was meth involved?
Could have been. I don't know,
Okay.
but I do know this. Jesse L. McFadden, a registered sex offender who was thought to be traveling with 2 missing Oklahoma teens, is believed to be among the 7 people found dead at a home yesterday, just hours after he missed a scheduled court appearance.
Boy, that is as wheels off of a lead as we have ever read on this in this segment.
It gets weirder. The 2 teenagers are also believed to be among the bodies found at the home in Okmulgee County. It's in Henrietta. Now, the 2 teens have been the subject
home of Troy Aikman.
And current home, as well as hometown of our good friend David Garrett, my producer on the Longhorn basketball road broadcast this year. 7 bodies were found at a property where McFadden lived. The bodies were found not in the residence, but just on the property. So obviously, I texted Dave this morning and said, "What the heck?" He said, "It's 2 miles east from my nest, right out Main Street into the country. I drive by it every day. I should have seen the police there yesterday. It was like the movies. They discovered the bodies about 2-ish, and it became a massive crime scene." He said it's right out of a misery-type house, a dainty old farm home.
Man.
Yeah.
So they have any leads or just...
Oh, so it's bizarre. Meanwhile, speaking of bizarre...
We need a palate cleanser here pretty quick.
Well, it's not going to happen on this one.
That's the heads up.
Massive car crash yesterday in Montgomery County, Illinois, about 3.5 hours south of Chicago on I-55. You say, there's wrecks on the interstate all the time. Yeah, this one was caused by dirt.
Come again?
A dust storm.
Oh.
In Illinois. I mean, we're not talking Lubbock here. This is
This isn't like having in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Excessive winds blew dirt from nearby farms. It caused zero visibility on the road. More than 70 vehicles were involved in a pileup. 6 people dead.
70?
70. More than 36 hospitalized from this. All 6 fatalities occurred in the northbound lanes. Accidents occurred on both sides of the road. More than 30 agencies were there, and they said it was horrific. So, in the pictures I saw, you just see dust everywhere. So, yeah, that's why I said your palate cleanser wasn't going to happen on that. I've got your palate cleanser right here.
Thankfully.
And it involves your Texas Longhorn baseball team.
Okay.
Now, you're a very busy dude. Did you get a chance to watch the game yesterday on ESPN Plus?
No, because by the time I got home, I saw the score, and it was pretty much church at that point.
Okay, all right. Cam, did you get a chance to see any of the ball game?
Very beginning.
Okay. So neither of you were watching in the 5th inning when it was 13-4 TCU.
It was not.
I was watching since I was calling the game, but I did not see this happen. Apparently, you had a foul ball go down the right field line in foul territory. And what happened was, as the foul ball was pursued down the line, this got tweeted out by a lot of people. Here it is right here, Jeff. You see the ball go over in the corner, and there's a fan with a net who's trying to reach it. Out of nowhere, Cody Howard, the Longhorn reliever, scoops it up, runs down there, and they swat at him with that net. So Cody, to his credit, then takes the baseball into the bullpen. He closes the door to make sure it's and then he just kind of casually walks over and tosses it to a fan. So it was just weird, but the guy when Cody comes running out of nowhere and picks it up, the TCU fan, angry at him, swats at him with the net.
So this wasn't like some school official. This was just some...
It was a fan with a net trying to get it. And it was a foul ball.
Slappy with a net.
Yeah, just leaning over there with a net. And it was in kind of some elevated seating area.
If you bring a fishing net to a baseball game, you're a flawed person.
Yeah.
Unless you're
not Harry Carey.
Unless you're over the age of, I don't know, 10.
Yeah. So I didn't even know that happened. I did not even know that until I saw it, late last night. Cody Howard running down there out of the Texas Bowl. And it happened when Ace Whitehead was warming up in the bullpen, too, as he was heating up there. So there was there's your palate cleanser.
Did they eject the fan with the net for being a tool, or was he allowed to stay?
He was a TCU fan, so probably not going to happen there. A hometown fan. If it had been a Longhorn fan with a net with the TCU player, they'd hauled him out probably. Yeah. Probably visiting team fan as opposed to home team fan. Home team fan, different issue. So that's what happened.
I guess you can get away with slappery when you're for lack of a better term.
And to be fair, he did not make contact with Cody Howard. He swiped at him with the net, but did not make contact with him.
You should be kicked out just for being a grown man taking a fishing net to a baseball game.
Somebody said, speaking of Cody, how about Cody Clemens? Yeah, I'm going to talk about that coming up. Unless you were up late last night, you might not have seen this. So we'll get to that coming up. Also, we'll hear from David Pierce coming off of that, since we'll have some Longhorn baseball at the top of the hour. Bottom of the hour, Howard Jaffe, Texas women's tennis coach, joins us. We have another hour of Light the Tower coming up on the Horn. second hour of Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Way, Jeff Howe with you, our producer. Cameron Parker alongside. We're with you up until the noon hour, and it's Chad and Zay coming along after that. Coming up at the bottom of the hour here, we'll visit with Howard Jaffe, Texas women's tennis coach, number 8 national seed. They'll be at home. NCAA, first and second round. Same thing with the men, the number 1 national seed. And you should know, and our number 1 tennis supporter here, Tom, would know this. Admission free at the Texas Tennis Center to go out and see NCAA tournament.
It's a really nice facility if you're a tennis fan and haven't been out there.
It is really nice. Clean up from hour number 1. Speaking of Tom, he said, I attended a Yankees game in a box above and behind home plate. The outdoor seating area had a couple of nets so we could scoop balls off the netting behind home plate.
That's
that makes
different.
sense.
That's different.
Different issue than somebody just taking the long net on the stick, end of a long stick.
There's something just a little unsettling about somebody that would follow through with that.
It was pointed out that they were in a club barbecue area that's closed off. It's true. That is true.
I mean, you might as well just bring a vacuum cleaner with you or like a shop vac or something.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a couple of things there. It's Jeff asking for a palate cleanser after yesterday's inconceivable. That is inconceivable.
Yeah, that was a rough one yesterday.
Okay. All right.
We heard the story about, I'm sure you've heard about it, about the college baseball game in Texarkana where dude standing in the bullpen and gets shot.
Random bullet, stray bullet there.
Yeah.
Was it A&M Texarkana against UH Victoria?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, up there in Texarkana. Somebody said, speaking of Cody, how about Cody Clemens when we were earlier?
It's Cody with a K, by the way.
Yeah, Cody is spelled with a K.
Well, Craig, real quick, we just had a call on the Carol's line. Actually, the thing with Cody happened twice, both days, and it was all in fun that Cody and the fan were kind of joking about it on both days.
Oh, for real?
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
Cody Howard thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking about Cody Clemens. Just saying Cody that they were joking about after it happened. That it was a playful swat at him. Okay.
So it happened twice.
There's
apparently.
still something unsettling to me about a grown man taking a net to a baseball game.
maybe so, but for those wondering if it was malicious,
wonder if there was something
fan.
malicious intent. There was none.
No.
That's good to
know. There's no malicious intent. I still think you're a tool for taking a net to a baseball game.
But that is good to know, and that all was well with that. The reference I made to Cody Clemens last night, Cody this season has, I think Joe Davis pointed out on the Dodger broadcast last night, Cody Clemens has 6 hits. 3 of them have been home runs. He did not hit a home run last night. He did play in the game. The Dodgers beat the Phillies 13-4. Major League Baseball has inserted a new rule this year. Because last year, I did not realize the number was this prolific. More than 100 times last year, a position player went in to pitch in a game. More than 100 times. So baseball, Major League Baseball, felt it was getting ridiculous, out of control, and a little bit clownish and all that stuff. They've instituted a new rule where I believe you have to be trailing by 8 or more runs to be inserted in it. And you have to be ahead by some ridiculous amount, too, or a large amount, to be able to insert a position. Well, the Phillies were down 9 runs. So Cody Clemens goes to the mound, and he throws this, 72-mile-an-hour eephus pitch, that comes in. So the Dodgers had just called up a minor leaguer who had 2 hits in the night, and he got there, and I think the instructions, because Nomar Garciaparra was on the telecast, and Nomar said, when those guys go to the plate, when that happens, most of the time, the courtesy, understanding between both sides is you really don't swing at anything. Just don't swing. Well, he goes to the plate, and Cody Clemens strikes him out on 3 pitches. 3 of those drop-in eephus balls. Mm-hmm. So now the rules are out the window at that point. So that happens because then that's embarrassing. So then the next guy comes up and walks on 4 straight pitches as the eephus misses. Then the Dodgers send Shelby Miller, the pitcher, to the plate and let him bat for himself, and he hits a hard ground ball to third, and that ends the inning. They go to the top of the ninth, the Phillies last up, And what is the matchup? Shelby Miller on the mound against Cody Clemens. And he got him on a fly ball out. So they don't know. They said they're sure baseball's never kept track of this. But at least since the designated hitter in the insertion of the position player having to go to the mound, they believe it's the first time in the history of the game that a position player pitched to an opposing pitcher to end one inning and then reverse.
Faced him to lead off the next inning.
Faced him to lead off the next. So it's
wild.
Yeah, bizarre notes that happened at the end of the game. So anyway, the end of the game yesterday saw Texas on the short end of this one, 15-7 yesterday. We know about that Tanner Witt, his return. He went 2/3 of an inning and, gave up a couple of hits. He walked a batter, hit a batter, and threw 23 pitches, and he took the loss. That was part of our post-game conversation with David Pierce. Roger Wallace was down on the field to visit with Coach Pierce to get his thoughts on this. Yes, the Longhorns won the first two games, 8-4 on Saturday night, and then a thriller on Sunday, the 3-2 win with Porter Brown throwing out Carson Bowen at the plate to end the game. But they lose yesterday 15-7, so it was the conversation after the game between Roger and head coach David Pierce.
TCU seemed like they took advantage of every mistake because you weren't giving them free bases or things like that. They were just hitting.
Yeah, I mean, we did give them some free bases, but I will say that, we just didn't get a good start with Witt, and then it kind of snowballed from there, and we got three guys there in the middle that's just got to keep getting better and just trying to understand getting the ball down and attacking the right way. But, we competed most of the day. We just were playing uphill, and, it just made it tough all day, but that's what happened.
What did you see from Tanner out there?
Well, there's so many things you look at, and I felt like he was definitely, adrenaline was going, of course, and just felt like he's probably moving away from the rubber a little bit and sit up, down, is kind of running to the plate, which causes you to kind of drag your arm. But, I mean, you don't really know what you're going to get when you're in a situation like that. So, like I told the team going into the game in our pregame meeting, Tanner Witt is such a great teammate that, they were 100% behind him on this deal, and we'll continue it. We got to help him as he can potentially help us down the road.
I was going to say, that's behind him now. How important was it just to get him out there and now gets a little bit more normal?
Yeah, I mean, you probably wanted it in a different environment midweek, maybe where it's just not as exposed, but at the same time, it's definitely important to get that first one out of the way.
And then I know it's hard to wrestle with it now, but still, you come up here, you go on the road, and you win a series. That's still very big. Yes,
it is. I mean, when you look at big picture, winning 2 out of 3 here, a tough environment, definitely proud of our players. Just like to make it a competitive game today where, we don't give things away and we don't make mistakes to, make it be a ball game and make them have to earn it. And, they did a good job offensively. They attacked the baseball well, had a couple of arms that pitched well. So that's what happened. And we'll take the series, move on, and get ready for Kansas next week.
Yeah, midweek, but you're pushed back a day because of this. So now a day off tomorrow and then right back on the road, another big weekend coming up.
Yeah, fortunately in our schedule, this laid out where we didn't have a midweek, and that worked out good as far as playing Monday, getting in late tonight, and then tomorrow will be our day off.
Yeah, so there it is. And it's on Lawrence, Kansas this week in the league. The day off today for the players, full workout day tomorrow, practice day, and then kind of the abbreviated thing on Thursday before flying up, before the charter goes up on Thursday.
I know we got to hit the break real quick, Craig. You think? I mean, at this point, this team can't think about, hey, what do we have to do to position ourselves as a regional host? I mean, you just gotta take it game by game at this point, right?
Yeah, because it's an ever changing landscape, fluctuating on who could host. Until probably going into this week now. Here's West Virginia leading the Big 12 Conference, and they have been for a couple of weeks now. They haven't even been sniffed by the bracketological prognosticators on being a regional host. I guarantee they will this week. They'll be mentioned as a regional host this week, but there's still work to be done by everybody, West Virginia included. So we'll see where it.
But I got to think. Are you with me? I got to think whoever wins the Big 12 regular season Big 12 regular season champion has to host, right?
If there's going to be a year where it didn't happen, it would be this year.
Right.
Only because the RPI is down a little bit for the league, and there's the cannibalization that's been going on. I mean, they're knocking each other off left and right. That's why West Virginia's standing clear of the field right now at 11-4 in the league makes a difference.
So if there was ever a year where the conference champion did not need to go 2 and barbecued in the conference tournament, it would be this year.
It's this year. Yeah, definitely want to handle
that
the
does
business
tend to
on that.
happen.
No, and it's important for the regular season champion to win a game or two in
Right.
Arlington. I totally agree with you there. Somebody asked me, and I'll make it real quick. They said, can you explain how you became a Dodger fan? I've talked about it before and exactly what a Dodger is. First of all, my dad was a Yankees fan. He used to tell us stories growing up when I was little in North Carolina about Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series. He went to 2 of them on his GI got into the center field bleachers at Yankee Stadium in 52 and 53 to see the World Series there for $1 on his Army ID, which was really cool. I thought the name was cool, but also my favorite color was blue and white. And the first package of baseball cards I opened was Bill Russell, the Dodgers shortstop. So it was all of those things.
That's awesome.
And I wrote off to the Dodgers, wrote to Willie Davis, and I got a glossy 5x7 autograph photo and a pocket schedule and all that stuff. You know how a kid's mind can be certainly shifted. So I became a Dodger fan when I was about 9 years old, and,
baseball
and been
teams
ever
still
since.
do that, by the way.
Yeah.
They'll send your kid a kids pack if you.
That's pretty much what I got.
Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the.
I didn't even send
to the
that.
team.
I just wrote off and said, "Hey, could you send me a picture?" And they did. And so that's how it happened. The term itself, Dodgers, comes from the old thing of trolley Dodgers in the early 20th century, with all the trolley lines that happened in Brooklyn, and they were a mess, crisscross. People were getting killed in accidents. And so they were called, you had to dodge the trolleys and made sure that you didn't get killed. So they were actually affectionately known as the trolley Dodgers. And so then they just dropped
the
that
short
part
version
of it.
sounds a lot better.
It does. Dodgers, and it's a unique name, like the Green Bay Packers. That's a unique name, So it's something. It's something. The Boston Celtics. I mean, there's some unique names in sports for sure. All right, coming up, Howard Jaffe, Texas women's tennis coach, joins us when we continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260, live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
And there's a lot of sports going on right now, a lot of high leverage sports being played. Make sure you're watching it in the best way possible. If you're not, just get in touch with Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations. They can give you the home entertainment setup you've always wanted. Just call them right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. When I made that call, I didn't have the best viewing experience. Now I do. I'm watching all of my sports on a 75-inch LG TV, hearing it in crystal clear sound with the Sonos sound system. Tom McCain AV Consultations. They keep the latest smart TVs and Sonos audio in stock. They're not raising prices like everybody else is right now. I know everybody's trying to save a buck any way they can. And if he doesn't have it in stock, Tom McKay can get it in the blink of an eye. They put together projects that not only make sense for your budget, they make sense for the amount of space you have in your house. So you want that same setup like I've got? No problem. They can obviously do that for you. Maybe you need something a little smaller. It's not a problem either. They can do that for you. Or if you want to watch sports in a full tilt home theater experience and get you a 150-inch screen, AV Consultations can make that happen as well. Whatever your needs are, big or small, just get in touch with AV Consultations and let them take care of all the worry for you. 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. Let Tom McKay at Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of your dreams.
I can see her lying back in her satin dress in a room where you do what you don't confess. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs.
This is Light the Tower on the Horn. Sorry to lose Gordon Lightfoot, the great Canadian singer. You're familiar with Gordon Lightfoot's work, right?
Not off the top of my head. No.
Okay, let me see. Probably not familiar with If You Could Read My Mind. That's one. Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, about the freighter that went down in Lake Superior. Anyway.
No, he kind of, in his later years, though, he kind of does look like the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt.
You know what he looked like? He looked like, if you remember the wand maker from Harry Potter, he kind of looked like that a little bit there. So I thought about that when I saw him. So anyway, all right. It's time now for our second hour Longhorn Notebook. All right,
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
And our notebook this hour turns its attention to Texas women's tennis, the number 8 national seed, and getting ready to host NCAA tournament action this week at the Texas Tennis Center. And we're very pleased to be joined by the head coach, Howard Jaffe, on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. Howard, great to visit with you again. How are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Always a pleasure to visit with you. And before we get to talking about the NCAA stuff, I have to give you the props and the team the props for having this great year that you've had to this point. And you've had so many outstanding performances to the season. But I always know that coaches talk about the totality of the team effort and everything that had happened to win the Big 12 women's regular season and postseason tournament titles. How about your thoughts on the totality of what's happened with your group so far and coming through and winning the regular season and the postseason tournament championship?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's an interesting one. Our team obviously has won the NC2A tournament last year and the year before. So the tension, the pressure, and the expectation, of course, is great to try to three-peat. That's sort of just the backdrop to setting up the year. We had turned over 4 of our 8 scholarship players. So we had, we do have 4 new faces. And against that backdrop, I would say the year has been quite difficult for the ladies, having to fill some big shoes from, last year and the year before's team. And in spite of that, late-ish in the year, the team appears to, have rallied and played well enough, as your question would suggest, to win the regular season Big 12 and, of course, to win the tournament here a week or so ago. And so the hope for an old coach is that this team that is finding its way is still growing just a little bit and are poised to do something perhaps even better than what we did in the conference.
Howard, I have to believe that when you mentioned about replacing key pieces off back-to-back national championship teams, that it helps if you have an incoming freshman who not only wins Big 12 Freshman of the Year, but wins Big 12 Player of the Year, Nicole Kieran. It's only the 3rd time that's happened in the history of the Big 12 Conference. Could you have foreseen Nicole performing at that high level as a freshman coming in?
No, I mean, she's obviously surpassed any reasonable expectation that a coach, even a driven coach, could have. In her case, being from Israel, there's mandatory military service, so she is someone that, hadn't really been in school per se for the past 2 or 3 years. And just the language barrier, the cultural barrier, the getting used to the rigors of academics and studying at Texas, all of those things would, suggest that it'd be a rocky and difficult year, which I'm sure in many respects it has been. But the idea that she would perform in such a way that she, won these best player in the Big 12 and best freshman, really, as I said, it surpasses any, reasonable expectation. So that, as you say, doesn't suck.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I would say also getting the performances that you did from Taisia Pashkaleva has to be a pretty exciting thing to be the Big 12 newcomer of the year. So you get the freshman of the year, the player of the year, which happens to be the one player, obviously, in Nicole Kieran, and then Taisia Pashkaleva being the Big 12 newcomer of the year also is one of those things that has to make it very satisfying for a coach.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously delighted. As I sort of set up, we lost 4 of our 8 scholarship players, and you've just talked about 2 of the replacements, which, they've done well. Interestingly, Taya is played the final match against Texas 2 years ago for Pepperdine when we won the national championship game 4-3. And so I know that she's a really formidable person and a player. She had some significant injury problems in the fall, but really also the idea that she was just fit and ready to play would have been enough, but she also has performed in a stellar way to allow, the success we've enjoyed so far.
I would also be remiss, since I mentioned Nicole being what the things that she's done. She was all Big 12 singles first team, but Charlotte Shivadapan was as well. And then you've got Savannah Zelenova on the second team as well. I mean, this is the sum of the parts, isn't it, Howard, when you start mentioning all these different ones who individually attain their own honors, but all within the team concept that makes the team so difficult to beat.
Yeah, there's no question. Our team has the horses, or so to speak, the players. Sabina was a big part of the national championship team last year, winning 26 against 1 loss only. She's another one that struggled this year early with injuries, but has just really replicated it. I think she's, 16, 17 odd wins against 3 or 4 losses only. And Charlotte Shivadapan, our Southern Cal lady, also excellent tennis player, excellent human being, team captain. So they've all definitely got the ability to hopefully make a good run and mount a bit of a title defense this year.
And going for a third consecutive title, as we've pointed out, and visiting right now and talking Texas women's tennis with the head coach, Howard Jaffe, as the Longhorns get ready to have NCAA tournament action at home. How beneficial is it to be a top 8 national seed, meaning if you handle your business this weekend, you get to play as well for those next round after that if you handle your business in first and second round? How important is it to be playing on your home court?
No question. I mean, I think all your listeners who are more au fait maybe with football and basketball know very well, whatever the arena, it's advantageous for the players to be sleeping in their own beds, to be playing on the courts that they're used to training on and competing. And then, of course, that is to say nothing of having the enthusiastic Longhorn fans cheering them on. So the home court advantage is huge, and of course we're hopeful that, as you say, we can handle our business here this weekend.
Howard, how about your first round opponents, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi? You've got that first rounder, 2 o'clock Friday afternoon, and then Cal and San Diego in that first round match. That's at 11 o'clock Friday morning as well. I always ask coaches this, so you'll be no different than when I visit with Coach Elliott or when I visit with Coach Terry or Coach Schaefer about, I know you've got to concentrate on the here and now, but between your coaching staff and all that, do you kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the other match, assuming, again, to use that phrase, your team handles its business and you've got a second round opponent to deal with? Are you also kind of keeping an eye on what's going on in that other match, as well as the fact, since it precedes yours, before your group takes the court?
Only very peripherally, or maybe the better English is superficially. I mean, what I do know to be true is that the players on Cal's team, we've locked horns with them. last year, so we're very familiar with them. And also familiar with the players on a very, very formidable San Diego team this year. And so obviously the attention will be, as all coaches hackney the cliche to death, on the here and the now, and trying to come up with a fine 4 points to win against TAMU, Corpus Christi. But then we'll be very aware, and we'll have our work cut out for us against whoever the winner is of that Cal Berkeley and San Diego match.
All right. It'll be, again, first round action, 2 o'clock, Friday afternoon at the Texas Tennis Center, as the Longhorns will face Texas A&M Corpus Christi. The other matchup starts at 11 a.m. It's Cal and San Diego. And, again, a Longhorns victory would advance Texas to the second round matchup at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Howard, it's always great to visit with you. We wish you the best of luck and look forward to a successful weekend on the home court. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Great. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you. All right. There it is. Howard Jaffe, Texas women's tennis head coach, number 8 national seed for the Longhorn women. And, again, they'll play at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon against the Islanders of Texas A&M Corpus Christi, preceded at 11 a.m. by the matchup between Cal and San Diego. The winners meet Saturday at 4. The top-ranked Texas men's tennis team, number 1 overall seed, and they're in action on Saturday and Sunday. Number 1 Texas also will play Texas A&M Corpus Christi in the first round. That's 1 o'clock on Saturday. And the other matchup is UTSA against Pepperdine. That's at 10 a.m. on Saturday. And then the winners there will meet in the men's second round Sunday at 1 o'clock. So Longhorns picking up their 31st consecutive bid to the NCAA championships and their 40th overall selection there. So 6th straight year Texas has hosted the NCAA championships on the men's side as well. So a great weekend for tennis there. And I know Tom, our resident tennis fan, said that UT tennis matches are normally free to attend. However, as they're prone to do, the NCAA wants their share. So the NCAA matches at UT will be ticketed. A kiosk will be set up out front, and tickets will likely be $5. I will take your word for it, Tom. I was told by someone at the University of Texas that it was going to be free, but maybe they had not yet heard from NCAA. And anyway, it would be a nominal charge if it were the case. And you've got women's and men's tennis throughout the course of the weekend. So that's cool. The Texas softball team has the huge series with Baylor coming up this week. And, of course, the Longhorn baseball team is back on the road. Texas will be taking on Kansas Friday evening at 6 o'clock, Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, the 3 games at Hoagland Ballpark in Kansas City. Lawrence, Kansas, excuse me. They'll play in Lawrence, Kansas, Texas against KU. All right, coming up, Jeff and I have a few other things we'll get to, and we'll wrap up today's edition of Light the Tower here on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. We do have the overcast skies today, and there is the possibility of some rain, and we're hoping that we get only the rain at the right times, to help our grass grow and things like that. But what we don't want is those heavy thunderstorms and ones that can produce hail. I know I saw some of those in my neighborhood the other day, and it could do damage to your roof. Now, you've heard me tell you about Divided Sky Roofing and Solar, and we all know how they do great roofs, but they are also a full-service solar company. I've mentioned about the possibility of when the higher power bills start arriving during the summer, you can prepare for that and save money this summer with a new Timberline solar shingle roof. It'd be great if you don't have that. Some folks already have solar in some form, either a solar roof or they have solar panels, but do you have a backup battery? Because if you don't, you're wasting money. With a backup battery, you can use all of the power that you make instead of giving it back to the power company. And the batteries are now covered by the Inflation Reduction Act, so you can get that tax credit, and we can all certainly use that. John Hardy and his staff are solar experts. They can repair and service your existing solar system. Those other roofers that you're hearing about are just selling you a solar roof. Divided Sky Roofing and Solar can repair and service your existing solar system. And we're talking about them being master electricians. They're all NABCET certified. That's the solar version of the master plumber. You can trust your roofing and your solar needs to the experts, our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. You can call them at 512-995-ROOF or check them out at dividedskyaustin.com. And it's TEC license number 37397. When the wind blows high, and we know it will again, call our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down.
Sounds familiar.
Very biographical.
The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy.
It's a very historical, kind of biographical tune here.
With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November.
So this is the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is about a real event that happened.
The Ella Fitzgerald?
The Edmund Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald's a great singer. The Edmund Fitzgerald was coming back from a mill in Wisconsin. So he's talking about big iron ore freight. And this big storm rolls in.
So I take it again, I don't know a ton about Gordon Lightfoot. I take it he was a storyteller.
He could. Yeah, I would think so. So listen how he tells how the storm is rolling in. This is pretty eerie when you hear how the storm is coming in and the old cook can't feed them and stuff like that. Here it is right here.
The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound and the wave broke over the railing. And every man knew as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing.
The Witch of November, you understand. When afternoon came, the breakfast had to wait. By afternoon rain, it was freezing rain. So he goes on, he tells the story. The ship disappears. Completely disappears. If they were like 15 miles from Whitefish Bay and they'd never made it.
It's like some Amelia Earhart stuff.
It is. It sank to the bottom of Lake Superior. And right here, this is funny. Fellas, it's too rough to feed you, the cook says. And then the main hatchway gives in.
At 7 p.m., a main hatchway gave in. He said, fellas, it's been good to know ya.
Yeah. So there was this eerie thing that happened.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then it says later that night came the wreck of the Edmund. So there's been a variety of theories as to what really happened. They from just the fact that there was a big storm, but this was a gigantic ship, and how could it sink to the bottom of Lake Superior and all of the bodies with it down there? But he says because, when the Witch of November comes early, says the big lake they call Gitchigumi, as the Native Americans called it then. And they had several diving expeditions later on. I think it was on like National Geographic Channel. So when they brought the bell
James
up.
Cameron go down there and try to see what's going on?
He should have. He should have sent Bill Paxton down there and did it, but they didn't get done there. But they did recover the bell and all that kind of stuff. The most popular theory is that it was hit by somewhat of a tsunami on a lake, Lake Superior. The storm raises a giant wave.
Wow.
And it broke the ship in half and it went down. So that's
a tsunami, huh?
Yeah. Well, it was a gigantic wave that took it apart. So that's the deal. But anyway, he memorialized it in a song, and it was a huge hit back in the 70s. But that was the late, great Gordon Lightfoot. He passed away.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, since we had the whole jersey conversation last week, a couple of Longhorn draft picks have been assigned jersey numbers by their respective teams.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson is going to wear number 7 for the Falcons. It's got that old. If you've got your old Michael Vick jerseys, Falcons fan, you just get you a piece of tape and put Robinson on the back of that thing and ready to rock and roll. Roshan Johnson's going to wear 30 for the Bears.
Nice.
And DeMarvion Overshown, in the spirit of Calvin Hill, going to wear 35 for the
Nice.
Cowboys.
Nice. Okay.
I haven't seen anything for the Eagles or Chiefs yet for Moro, Ojimo, or Keandre Coburn.
Okay.
And did you see this email come down, Craig, from the college football playoff selection committee?
Yes, I did. I did see that.
Actually, do you want to read it then, or you want me to, or what? How you want to do this here?
No, it's okay.
It's
all right.
So the 12-team playoff is ready to kick off starting in the 2024 season. So here's how it's going to go. The first round, this is in the 2024 season, the first round games will be campus sites. It's going to be Friday, December 20th, and Saturday, December 21st. Quarterfinals will be New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. It's going to be the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day You get the Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl. Semifinals will be the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, and then the national championship game will be Monday, January 20th, 2025 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And then for the 2025 season, you'll get December 19th, one game on that Friday. That Saturday, December 20th, you'll have 3 games. Then your quarterfinals that year will be the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day, you get the Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl. Semifinals will be the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl. And then your national championship for the 2025 season will be Monday, January 19th, 2026 at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
Yeah, it's probably as late as we can ever remember.
This year's in 2023, the title game's in Houston, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I thought, yeah.
Yeah. One final thing on the text line. Somebody said, I grew up in New England. This song would usually cause the fishermen to go quiet for a minute.
Every time I think of New England, we were talking about your experience earlier with the costume at school and whatnot. All I thought about the whole show is the Patriots logo with, as I call it, with Paul Revere snapping the ball.
Yes, that's it. Patriot Pat.
It'll always be Paul Revere to you.
Okay.
Ball, yeah.
So anyway, somebody else. Our friend Thompson just checked with a source of mine. You are correct. Free admission for the NCAA tennis matches this weekend. As the old freestylers credo goes, if it's free, we're styling. So there you go. That's this week. And thanks to Howard Jaffe for joining us as well. And we thank you for joining us. We invite you to stay tuned because coming up next will be Chad and Zay. For our man behind the glass, our producer, Cameron Parker, and for my co-host, Jeff Howe, I'm Craig Way. Thanks for joining us. We'll visit with you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock right here on Light the Tower.